Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far as we draw a little bit closer to that weekend. We got a lot to discuss in this morning's video, like we have been. We will talk about this major pattern change upcoming, especially as we get into next work week, and then we'll give you an update on the tropics. We do not have Tropical Storm Sarah yet. We have had some dramatic changes in model guidance as far as the tropics, and we'll discuss it all in this video, but it's good news for a lot of people. Not the best news for some folks in Central America that could get a lot of rain, but for places like Florida, I mean, even Cuba, maybe areas of the southeast, if they were ever going to be affected. Really, really good news. So we're going to discuss this, break it down. Of course, as you know, things could change, so continue to tune in for updates. But man, we've had some big time changes over the last 24 hours as this system that is not Sarah yet has trended differently, that's for sure. So we'll break that down. We'll really get detailed on this pattern change upcoming also. And then we'll break down what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Thursday. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others have an opportunity to do so too. So what we're going to do first is actually start off by speaking on this big-time pattern change on the way for next week. This is going to bring a lot of crazy weather across the country, severe weather. It could bring a big time winter storm across the northern sections of the plains, and it could spill a lot of cold air into the central to eastern U.S. as we get, closer to the end of next week into next weekend. And it could linger all the way into the holiday week. Thanksgiving is what I'm speaking on, not talking about Christmas, not talking about that far out. But yes, this pattern could be in place even getting into Thanksgiving week. So we're going to speak on all this in the beginning of the video. So what you're looking at here is the warmer colors, the salmon, orange, red color, whatever you want to call it. That is ridging. That's high pressure. The blue is lower pressure. Blue, lower pressure, typically unsettled weather, brings a cold front with it. So cold air normally follows behind the blue you see on your screen. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can where you guys, the audience, can really understand. That's always a big goal for me in this channel. So we're going to start this off for Sunday morning. What you see here is a ridge over the eastern U.S. This will temporarily bring temperatures back to average to above average conditions, okay, across the eastern U.S. We got this kind of darker shade of blue down here. This is kind of this upper low, or it could be fully cut off from the main pattern, but just think of this as a trough of low pressure down here. Now watch as we continue to progress this in time, and this is for Sunday morning the 17th, so later this coming weekend. This fully gets cut off temporarily, but regardless if it gets cut off or not, it begins to eject across portions of the southern high plains. So it kind of goes from down here in like Mexico, Baja California, and ejects into areas of the Four Corners region, even into Texas. As it does so, it's going to bring an area of energy with it. It's going to pull a lot of moist air from the south to the north, and we're probably going to have a severe weather event in Texas for Sunday. Now we're getting into Monday morning at this point. This system continues right here. I'm going to draw on this a little bit. Right here to, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to draw on it. This system right here will continue to eject across the plains. This will probably bring severe weather for areas of Texas again for Monday, maybe even into Oklahoma. This could change. Okay, but just think of this darker shade of blue as an area of energy ejecting across the plains that could bring weather. Okay, and could bring significant weather, whether it's a significant winter storm or severe weather. Okay, let's get this back off and keep rolling here. Now, we continue to get deeper into next week. We get into next Tuesday. We get into next Tuesday afternoon, evening. Okay, that system fully ejects all the way and pretty much gets wiped out by this ridge as it trails right into this ridge. And basically this low pressure, I keep saying energy, but this low pressure will likely weaken, somewhere in the northern sections of the lower 48 up into Canada. And then this kind of evolves into this full-fledged upper trough, this dip in the jet stream. So the jet is basically digging like this at this point, okay? Now, this is going to try to progress eastward. So at this point, this blue blob you're seeing on the screen, which is causing a lot of confusion on my social media page. I think a lot of people just see blue and they immediately think snow. That's not what this means. Blue just means lower pressure, unsettled weather, and you do normally have a dump of cold air, whether it's just a little bit of cold air of a lot or a lot of cold air. We always got to try to figure that one out, right? But it always brings some cold air with it, typically, or at least cooler conditions. So we keep this going, and this thing really gets into a strong amplified trough, okay? A real lower pressure. We got a lot of energy, most likely pinwheeling around this low pressure, kind of just going like this, like that, embedded into the trough. Basically, we got this huge area of blue that continues to move across the central and then eventually into the eastern U.S. And this is the latest GFS from this morning. Eventually, this does make it into portions of the eastern U.S. And you see this darker shade of blue right here. This is just a lot of energy that will make it to the surface. And I say energy, it'll make it to the surface as some sort of moisture. And, you know, on this particular run, the GFS, this darker shade of blue, more energy, would probably translate to maybe some northwest flow events, some snow. This will definitely, with cold air spilling in from the north over the Great Lakes, this will get the lake effect snow machine going across the Great Lakes region. It'll turn to winter very fast, I think, next week across the Great Lakes region, regardless of what happens. But how deep does this trough dig? That's a big question on, you know, how far south the coldest air will be. I think regardless, the south cools down next week, all the way into the southeastern U.S. But what about the energy associated with it? That's a big question. And then check out how that energy kind of pinwheels up this way, and then another area right into here kind of dives down. And I think models are going to struggle with this until we get into next week. This is kind of coming down. What is this going to do? These darker shades of blue you see embedded in this wholesale shade of blue here, it's just areas of energy embedded in this big trough, this big dip in the jet, okay? Jet stream diving down like this and then coming back up like this. So a wild looking pattern for the eastern U.S. And I know I say all that and it's probably very confusing. It's almost probably a turnoff for a lot of people because they just want to say, Mitch, you know, what does this mean? But when you see a darker shades of blue like this and the 500 millibar chart come up, it means typically you got a lot of unsettled weather on the way. And when we get to the cooler times of the year, like we are now, November, it normally means a lot of cold air. And in this case, I think that will be the case. So, you know, same thing. I'm not going to stay on this much longer. I'm not going to spend the same amount of time that I just did on the GFS. This is the Euro AI model, which I think has done excellent with the tropics, by the way. And I'll talk about that here in a minute when we give you an update on the tropics. But the Euro AI model from overnight, here comes that first darker shade of blue right here, the ejection of this energy that gets thrown into the ridge, weakens, and then here comes the evolution of that trough that we just showed you on the GFS. Same evolution. This really amplifies, and a lot of cold air comes down with this, and we're going to have energy associated with it. And when I say energy, I'm not meaning a snowstorm in the southeast. Okay? For the southeast, I would say that this means maybe an opportunity for a system, but we're in November. Okay, just remember that. But if you're going to the mountains like I am, I'm very excited to see this just because, you know, it gives me an opportunity to maybe see a little snow. You guys know I love snow. But, you know, the Euro AI model really evolves this trough, first initial push, and then it drops this other additional area of energy down. And that's what happens with troughs. You know, they'll kind of move in and just multiple areas of energy will just continue to kind of come down. Little pieces of upper energy will just pinwheel down this trough. And you know, if you have enough cold air down, you get an early season snow event. So what does this mean at the surface? I know this is what a lot of people want to see, right? The GFS. All right, remember I was talking about, and we're going to kind of go back to this just because I want you guys, the audience, kind of understand what I mean with energy. Okay, you see this initial little area of energy right here? This is for Monday afternoon. Well, if we go back to the surface here it is right here. So it translates to the surface, right? So it starts to eject across the country. Where's the cold air? Well, I think as this moves across, and we'll start off right here, this is going to be bringing a severe weather potential for Texas. This is kind of Sunday night. Then we get into Monday morning into the Monday afternoon time frame. Severe weather will most likely be up here with some sort of central low pressure ejecting across the middle of the country right here. I know it shows multiple L's, but there will likely just be one dominant surface low. Okay, and then we get into Tuesday. I think when we get into Tuesday, severe weather chances might slowly drop off as cold air gets more involved. And the GFS wants a snowstorm up here in areas of Minnesota, maybe the Dakotas, long duration event potentially too. And yeah, I mean, a couple day event. Rain switches to snow in Minneapolis next Wednesday, and then we get into next Thursday. A lot of cold air gets involved, and then we start to get craziness, right? Okay, we start to get some snow showing up all the way down here in Tennessee next Thursday. Please don't tell everybody that it's going to snow. Mitch says it's going to snow a week from today in Tennessee, but I'm telling you, there's a lot. We've seen snow in Tennessee in November. We've seen snow in northern Alabama in November. I mean, we've seen snow just about in a lot of places in November, but you get what I'm saying. Even as of late, it's not totally uncommon. But you see the 540 line, which is freezing aloft, not the surface aloft. This is digging all the way down to the northern sections of the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of energy embedded in this trough. So a lot of stuff just pinwheeling down. So we get into next Friday morning, and you got a lot of lake effect energy popping off the lakes here. And just maybe a reinforcing shot of cold air diving down with energy associated with it. Look at all the blue. So basically just have a multi-day event of weather. Rain switching to snow. Look at all that just snow kind of drifting around up here. Now, as far as what the well, let's switch it to, let's back it up and let's show you guys the eastern US on what the GFS is showing. Okay, it's quiet through the weekend. We get this system out of the way that we're going to deal with today. Okay, we get a little bit of rain that could, move into the picture in the Northeast early next week. And then this is when the pattern starts to evolve, even across the central and really eastern US. There is what could be Sarah, okay, or the remnants of Sarah, bringing some moisture into Florida. The latest GFS, and it's going back and forth, has a system out ahead of this main trough. You can see there's a cold front moving in. It has low pressure ejecting. Yeah, this could bring severe weather across the southeast. It could. I'm not ruling that out. But cold air filters in behind it, and the leftover moisture starts to switch to snow. A little bit of snow in the mid-south. Okay, not a forecast. Rain switching to snow even up here, in Ohio, PA, Western PA, Western New York. Look at the snow in Southern Ontario. Look at the lake effect snow machine kicking up. And just a lot of energy up here in the Great Lakes region. And then we get into Friday morning, and then, more energy tries to pivot down. Okay, we start to get into Saturday morning. And, yeah, just a lot going on. A lot of energy flying around up here in the Great Lakes region. This would make a very wintry scene next weekend, not this weekend, across the Great Lakes region. And it's definitely just stuff we have to watch. And then even going beyond that, past the 10-day mark, a lot of energy starts flying around. Okay, we got this little snow event that tries to show up for areas in the mid-Atlantic. I mean, please do not, think that that's going to happen. We don't know if that's going to happen. But look at this. This is getting into next weekend. Look at the lake effect snows coming off Erie, Ontario, Huron, Lake Michigan. So that tells us that we have cold air filtering over these areas. So it's going to be interesting to watch all this, guys. It really is. And, the Euro AI model really has, what stinks about the Euro AI model, I love the model, but unfortunately, it really doesn't tell us. It just shows precipitation. It doesn't show if it's wintry or not. We have to look at the surface temperatures. But here's the Euro AI model with that first initial system, right? And then it really pushes the cold air in. So Thursday morning, it looks like we already got a rain-snow mix ongoing in western Tennessee. Could have rain switching to snow where it shows green. This will definitely most likely be, I would say, I always say that, definitely most likely. But this has a chance to be mainly snow where it shows green. And then look at the energy it tries to filter in behind it. This could be snow that you're seeing in green. Then a back push of energy kind of comes in. So Saturday morning, next Saturday morning, it's snowing. And, potentially sections of the Tennessee and North Carolina mountains, points north. So a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting stuff coming up for sure. But speaking a little bit more on that severe weather threat, why do we have that severe weather threat with the first push? Well, first off, let's show you the Storm Prediction Center. This is WeatherWise, web.weatherwise.app. Awesome app to use, by the way. But already this is for Sunday, we already have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather in central to west central Texas. I mean, San Angelo, Big Spring, Abilene, all included in this. Okay, and even for day 5, this shifts a little bit further east into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, all the way down to Austin, Waco, Texas. Okay, level 2 out of 5, risk of severe weather. And what we know right now is because of this energy ejecting across the middle of the country, and maybe because of this upper energy ejecting across the middle of the country, this is pulling in the southerly flow. This is actually helping to pull up some of that moisture from what will most likely be Sarah down here in the Caribbean. So, we start off Sunday. Well, this is around Sunday afternoon. You already got dew points in the 50s. That's enough in the high plains of Texas because it's higher up in elevation. But I would say the GFS not really doing much with moisture. But then we get into Sunday, and this is what we have. I'm sorry. This is Sunday. So I think I was showing you guys. Yeah. So this was Saturday. So this is getting into Sunday, that day 4 risk. My bad. Got my days mixed up. And yes, the moisture is there. We got dew points in the low 60s in that slight risk area. I mean, the moisture is really building up into like central and eastern Texas, all the way into Oklahoma. So you can check that off the box as a thermodynamic for severe weather. And then it builds even more as we start to get into, say, Monday. But then it looks like Monday can get kind of weird, as you will have a cold front progressing. So depending on how quick the trough progression is, Monday's severe weather threat could go down or it could go up. But it looks like the cold front really sweeps in the atmosphere, and maybe that severe weather threat for Monday could actually shift a little bit further east into the Texarkana area. But this is just one model run. This is just the GFS. Euro shows something a little bit different, does not progress the pattern as fast as the GFS. So we're certainly watching the severe weather threat. No point in getting any more detailed than that. Of course, with any energy ejecting across the country, you're definitely going to have, you're certainly going to have a favorable kinematic wind field. The upper winds will, create a wind environment that supports severe weather. But, as far as snow totals, potential snow totals, the GFS ensemble, and I'm actually going to have to see if there's any updated information. As we start to move into next week, there's that signal. This is the ensemble, not the operational. We start to go through about next Wednesday. You can see the signal for snow in areas of the upper Midwest, even a little signal across the plains. And then we extend this all the way, about 10 days out, right? And that is a hefty signal for lake effect snow and just an all-out storm system for the Great Lakes region right in this area. We got even a little bit of a signal for snow into the Midwest, but it's definitely increasing, okay? Now, if we look at the Euro ensemble, okay, and it looks like, the 06Z is running. Same thing, we'll go out 10 days. Man, it is totally different, folks. It really likes the idea of a big-time winter storm across the high plains and then into the plains. It is totally different. That is a dramatic difference. It does not really like the idea with as much lake effect snowfall, and it favors the middle of the country. I mean, you compare that with the GFS ensemble, massive difference, right? Huge difference, okay? That's not a snowfall forecast, just a signal, right? And same thing, we'll kind of jump back into the eastern U.S. What about the signal out here? The GFS ensemble favors more of that lake effect snow, northwest flow kind of energy. Look at the snow even trying to add up down here in the southern Alps. Favors more of that, and we take it, 10 days out, and we'll kind of stop it right here. Yeah, it's the 10-day mark. Even shows a little bit of snow down here in the Tennessee. Not a forecast. It favors that like northwest flow event up into the mountains of West Virginia. Shows snow into the Great Lakes region, even into interior New England. But you look at the Euro ensemble, which is going to show us the 06Z. We're going to have to flip and look at this. And man, it is not near as much snow. So for snow weather fans, you definitely would not want this to happen. Okay, so we'll continue to watch. We'll even look at the Canadian ensemble. It's kind of a mixture between both, right? So we just got to continue to watch. Definitely a colder pattern on the way. And, speaking on the weather in general, this was issued yesterday. It already has. It looks like it's favoring I would say, more so the Euro ensemble as far as a big winter storm across the plains. And if something like the Euro ensemble happens or the Euro happens, we could have a blizzard. But it does already have a slight risk of heavy snowfall from the 20th to the 22nd. Okay, moderate risk of high winds because of this system ejecting, and they already have a moderate risk from the 20th to the 21st of much below average temperatures, and then a slight risk of that in this area. So it is already, they're already pointing to a pattern that supports definitely some weather, a lot of weather, a big change across the middle of the country that'll eventually get into the eastern U.S. Now, as far as the Climate Prediction Center, as far as those temperatures, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, below average temperatures starting to show up between the 19th and the 23rd. And then we start to move into, let's see, the 8 to 14 day outlook. Okay, 21st to the 27th. All right, below average temperatures starting to sneak into the southern sections and the southeastern areas of the country. So a cool down on the way here. And if you look at the GFS ensemble, and let's make sure we got the entirety of the run here. Above average temperatures could, be in place for the eastern U.S. But as we start to get into next Thursday, the 21st, you're starting to see these below average temperatures creeping in, and then well below average temperatures show up for the southeast, mid-south as we get into Thursday and to Friday, all the way into next weekend. You just basically got a pattern that favors below average temperatures across the central and southeastern mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, the Midwest part of the U.S. Okay. Now, what's interesting to me is the Euro ensemble with this is different. Okay, it really lags the cold air. In fact, if we go all the way back to like next Thursday evening, it's still got above average temperatures across most of the southeastern U.S. On the GFS ensemble, GEFS, it already has below average temperatures in. So the Euro ensemble is a little bit slower with the cold air, but once it gets in place, it sticks around for a while. So we'll continue to watch this. I think wild weather expected with this pattern next week. Now let's give you an update on the tropics. Boy, has things changed. This thing has really just not slowed down. It continues to head right towards areas of, it's already bringing some weather to Nicaragua, Honduras, and you can still see the spin, but this is still just a tropical depression as of right now. But you see the colder cloud tops indicated by the blacks, whites, and pinks embedded into it. It's a healthy spin, okay, but it's definitely not really consolidated at all. It's already interacting with land. So as of right now, this is just Tropical Depression 19. Okay, this is not developed in the Sierra. And listen, the latest from the National Hurricane Center has this developing into a tropical storm sometime today, but its peak intensity is only 65 miles per hour. Remember yesterday your boy Mitch was saying major hurricane is likely? Boy, I was dead wrong, and I'll just be the first to admit it. I'm not going to shy away from criticism with that. But really, the model flip that happened yesterday was pretty dramatic and sudden. Does that mean it could dramatically and suddenly go back the other way? It absolutely could. But of course, when you have short-term adjustments in model guidance, you typically don't go back the other way. So this is great news, and it really is. And I've said this many times. I'm over talking about the tropics. So what stinks is, you got tropical storm warnings, hurricane watches up for the northern Honduras shoreline, even some tropical storm watches extending down to Nicaragua. But unfortunately, this is going to hang out down here in Honduras for a while and dump a ton of rain. But as of right now, a hurricane's not even forecasted by the National Hurricane Center. And, a lot of people are wondering, well, can't this develop once it gets in the Gulf of Mexico? It could, but the chances of it doing this are low because the Gulf of Mexico is cooler now, and you're going to have a ton of wind shear of the Gulf of Mexico. So, really good news. The GFS shows it too. Here it comes. It's steadily strengthening, deepens all the way to about just around 1,000 millibar low, but it pretty much just plows this right into Central America, the Yucatan, and it shreds it apart. And it does try to develop again at the last second before bringing a slug of moisture into Florida. But this isn't anything you guys couldn't handle if this is the way it unfolds. Man, yesterday, let's back this up 4 runs, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Major hurricane. 1, 2, 3, 4. pretty dramatic change. And the Euro is pretty much the same way, folks. I mean, develops this and kind of keeps this into a tropical storm. The thing that is very unfortunate about this, I kind of think this had the potential to happen anyways, is we could get catastrophic flooding in Honduras. So we're certainly praying for you folks down here. There's a lot of people that cover this area probably a heck of a lot better than I do, but we're talking about feet of rain as possible in Honduras because of this tropical energy. It just will hang out over the same area. So just because it's good news for Florida, Cuba, etc., doesn't mean it's good news for somebody else. It's normally the way weather works, unfortunately. But the Euro, this is the Euro ensemble, still has this hooking and going towards the southeast. But boy, oh boy, are the members much, much weaker. Much weaker. And it's because we've had a westward trend. So that's all I got on the tropics. There's no point in getting any deeper than that as of now. As far as what's happening weather-wise today, a lot of weather moving across the eastern U.S., much needed rain for certain areas, washout conditions across Ohio, West Virginia. A lot of this energy is starting to move out of Kentucky and Tennessee, but still dealing with it in eastern sections of those states. A lot of rain moving through the Carolinas, a lot of just good old-fashioned rain up in the Great Lakes region. Maybe a little wintry mix in some of these higher elevations of the Alps. Probably not a big deal if it's happening. Middle of the country, quiet. And then Pacific Northwest and Western U.S. continues to get that just flow off the Pacific. So as far as watches, warnings, and advisories, the winter weather advisories are up here from Maine for maybe a little bit of freezing drizzle and rain as we're getting into tomorrow morning, really. We do have flood watches up for the coastal areas of the Carolinas and up here in southeast Virginia. Winter weather advisories scattered across the Sierra Nevada. And then we got some winter storm warnings up for the northern Cascades. Now, the risk of excessive rainfall is below 5%, so it doesn't even show up. We have a risk of thunderstorms along the west coast, but there is a marginal risk down here for my folks here in the Carolinas. From Wilmington up to Kitty Hawk, you guys, not only thunderstorms, but you do have a risk of severe weather. I don't think it'll be a huge deal, but definitely be aware of that. And if we're looking at the southeast, look at all this rain moving over the entire southeast for today. Carolinas up into Virginia, much needed rain up into Virginia, the Delmarva, Maryland, Delaware. And here are those thunderstorms that could get going in the far eastern areas of North Carolina today. Watch out for a little quick spin up. But this rain will exit the region. And by the time we get into tomorrow, I mean, it'll be like it never even happened. Okay? So much quieter conditions for your Friday to kind of cap off your work week. But rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, maybe a half an inch for Columbia. Charlotte, more closer to an inch. But you start to get into sections of southern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina, an inch to 2 inches, maybe even 3 inches of rain is possible to likely up here. So a lot of rain up in this area. Hopefully you can see your town name pretty well. The northeast, this energy will try to move into this area. It'll rain most of the day in a lot of areas in West Virginia. Maryland, this will move in. Pennsylvania, this is moving in just light rain. It'll start to move out of Ohio, just some scattered showers into this evening, into the overnight hours. This system never really makes it up into the northeast because it's just a little cutoff low and it starts to dig back southeast. But a little bit of freezing drizzle, freezing rain could impact you guys across northern sections of Maine later tomorrow morning. So we'll see if that happens. Not a big deal, I don't think. But the south central U.S., quiet weather. Nothing to speak on. That'll change over the next few days as we just talked about. But today, very quiet. Just about the same for the north central U.S. This rain will kind of start to slowly head out the area. By the time we get to this evening, quieter conditions really take hold, but you'll deal with the rain for the first half of the day for sure. And then the western U.S., just scattered showers kind of drifting into the far western states, the west coast. Higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. Some strong winds are possible, and as we get into tomorrow morning, some snow could start to fall in certain areas in Nevada, the Sierra Nevada, and maybe even the higher elevations of Oregon and Idaho. So temperatures, what we're looking at, CAD situation, cold air damming, kind of digging down to the Carolinas and northeast Georgia. This will keep temperatures much colder. I mean, folks, it's going to be a shock to your system if you live in sections of the Carolinas. Not everybody, but central to western Carolinas. It's going to feel like a raw winter day. Northeast, same thing, 30s and 40s. chillier temperatures across the middle of the country. Now, you get into the south central U.S., 60s and 70s, pretty nice for November, and this is what it looks like out west. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and you guys have a wonderful and fantastic Thursday.